Hello and welcome to the Musical Instrument Investigator. Sheldon here. It's been a long time since I did a video because I've been really busy. But today we are on the website of Tennants Auctioneers based in the UK, and they have an auction coming up with a mixture of musical instruments and other kind of stuff. We're of course just interested in the musical instruments, so I thought we would have a quick look. This is actually happening tomorrow on the 14th of May. It's the 13th of the day, so still time for you to kind of have a look at the catalogue and bid. I've put a link to the catalogue in the description, so you can of course check it out yourself and see what's around. I'm just going to go through it kind of quickly and just see if there's anything interesting or if I have any thoughts. But yeah, feel free to ignore the video and just check out the auction catalogue yourself. There's about 130 or so lots which are actually musical instruments. There's some violins and some guitars and some banjos and other stuff, so let's just kind of blitz through it and see if there's anything interesting at all. Before we get started, just to say, if you do enjoy these videos, please consider subscribing, like, turn on notifications, comment, etc., all of that stuff, because it really does help. So yeah, this is a UK auction. If you're looking to bid on anything, do bear that in mind, especially if you are from abroad. Buyer's premium as well on all of these kind of auctions, so 24%, so whatever the final hammer price is, you need to add that to the final cost. And like I said, if you are abroad, shipping and all of that fun stuff. So we've got a viola here which says Sadhna, so it's just a trade viola here. Nothing too crazy, but if you want a kind of bargain instrument. Another viola here which has no label, but is probably much the same, some kind of trade instrument there, and then 15.5-inch back there. Another viola here, Christian Hoffman Session Lowendahl, so it's another kind of trade instrument here, not super high quality. Same here again, it's just another trade viola. So this is a little bit different. It says Paul Holt Ikerston, number 6, 2004, and kind of looking at it, it does seem like this is the work of an individual maker rather than a workshop. So it looks like potentially a kind of fairly amateur maker or new maker, hence the kind of number 6. So if you're interested in some kind of English viola for a fairly cheap price, that could be an option for you. 16.5 inches, fairly good modern size there. Another viola here, another one, Paul Holt Ikerston, number 9 this time, 2014, so was at least still making in 2014. A couple of bows there with it as well, 16 3/8 inches that, so slightly larger than the other one. So yeah, it could be a good viola for someone. Estimates 150 to 200. Another viola here, Rudolf Fiedler, Bohemia, 1995. Just looks like a trade viola there. Same here again, Skylark, that's a Chinese one. Viola bow here, GOW and Sons. So got 200 to 300 on that. Looks fairly interesting. They've got a few more images kind of down here, so worth looking at if you're interested in that. We're just obviously blitzing through today. Another viola bow, stamped Hill. Let's have a quick look there, 400 to 600. Looks possibly believable as one of the low end hill bows with the kind of aluminium button there, so could be interesting. Viola bow stamped WE Hill and Sons, 2 to 3,000 they've got on that. It's again worth kind of looking at these things a bit more closely, checking for condition reports and stuff if you are interested. 12 viola bows, okay, so we've got a large lot here, none with makers' names. We're not going to go into that now, but a lot of these auctions do have kind of interesting stuff like that. A violin, okay, John Turner, 1840, they're saying here. 2.5 to 3,000 on that. Let's have a quick look at that. Not really a maker I'm super familiar with, to be honest, but looks like a fairly interesting violin, actually, quite nicely made. So I'll have to kind of have a look at this maker. Yeah, it looks quite a nice instrument there, nice scroll. So definitely curious. I will do some digging on that in my free time. Another violin here with labelled Steiner, 40 to 60 on that. It's got a fairly bad kind of repair to the back there, but looks to be some kind of 18th century German violin there. Right, so a few different violins here. Some smaller sized instruments, so sometimes these kind of bargain lots can have some interesting stuff. The violin there, kind of curious looking one. Interesting scroll as well. It's got a bow. Definitely very individual there. Curious F-holes. Another lot of violins here. One Wolf Brothers. Sometimes you can get pretty good deals in some of these batches. Right, violin here. Roger Hansel, Caldberg, North York, 1989. It's quite a well-known maker, Roger Hansel. So some kind of silver-mounted bow there as well. It looks like a nicely made English instrument there. 2,000 to 3,000 is, quite a fair price. Not sure what his instruments go for kind of currently, but really beautiful back on that violin. So, and yeah, nice looking instrument. Okay, violin labelled Annibale Fagnola there, 200 to 300. That will kind of sell just for speculative kind of reasons. Another violin here, Medifino, so it's kind of a low tier French instrument. The violin labelled Matthias Klotz, looks to be probably 19th century kind of trade violin, kind of late 19th century. Another violin here, labelled Stradivarius, looks fairly standard. Violin labelled Nicholas Amatus. Again, sometimes some of these are a bit difficult to really understand from pictures. Another lot, multiple lots here. Another kind of trade violin, I think. Okay, another violin labelled Francesco Ruggieri. An interesting choice of wood for the back there. Probably a kind of trade violin, most likely. Okay, this one labelled Anton Hertel. It's getting, I think, manufactured instrument there. Okay, violin with the maker label E. Stent, London, 1914. Curious looking violin there. That one might be worth investigating. Looks like fairly well made. Another violin there with no label. Looks probably fairly standard, but difficult to tell from the pictures alone. Violin labelled Christian Friedrich Bauer, which does indeed look like a kind of maybe late 18th or early 19th century kind of German violin on the surface. Right, violin labelled J. Preston. Bow there as well. See if there's a picture of the back there. Yeah, it could be a kind of English violin, kind of late 18th century, possibly. Be good to get some better pictures on that. Violin with no label. Another violin here that looks fairly standard. We're just kind of going through as quickly as possible. Violin labelled KL or Mond. Another kind of trade violin there. Violin labelled James Lambie, number 33, Glasgow. Quite a nice back on that violin, actually. I wonder if we got... Is there another picture of that? Seemingly not, but interesting looking. Maidstone, that's a fairly standard imported violin. A couple of instruments here in a lot. Sometimes it's worth having a look at a bit more closely on some of this stuff if you have time. We are really just blitzing through the kind of trade stuff here. So let's quickly go back to that bow. No maker's marks, but they're looking for 2 to 2.5 on that. That's kind of interesting. Another bow here. It's actually got a open trench frog there, which is kind of interesting. That might be a bow worth looking at a bit more closely. The bow stamped Henri at Paris. Bow stamped Hill and Sons. Whole load of bow bundles we're not going to get into now. More bow bundles here. Loads of violins. Kind of generic cello there. Another 3/4 cello there. Okay, something is no image on that one. A whole load of different cello bows. Looks like they're kind of trade either Swiss or French bows there, but it could be an interesting lot for someone. Just cello bow there. We're just blitzing through. Cello bow stamped Thomasin. A few more different cello bows that look like they could be Chinese or so. Double bass there. GIF music. Right, saxophone by Vito. Saxophone by Con Elkhart there, alto. Clarinet by Buffet. This is all kind of fairly standard stuff. Flute by Pearl, stuff you could probably find in your local charity shop. One of these metal clarinets here. Oboe there, C. Mahallon, London. French horn. Tenor horn there. Concertina, English system, C. Wheatstone, 4600. We've seen lots of these over the years. They are endlessly popular for traditional music. Flutina, kind of accordion there. One of these auto harps, which I'm not a fan of. Clarinet. Some Northumbrian pipes. That's interesting. Various instrument making books and a whole load of other stuff, including a violin. Ukulele looks like a Bowron or something like that. A few other bits and pieces, so there are definitely things to look at. Keyboard, 4-string banjo. Let's see if there's any interesting banjos here. Gray and Sons banjo there. Another banjo. Vega banjo there. Jedson. Paramount on that one. Deering, say 2 to 300. That's me. Quite nice quality banjo. Ibanez banjo there. Samek, modern kind of Korean banjo, 4-string by Clifford Paragon. Okay, Piccadilly Circus. That looks nice. 4-string here. 5-string banjos, if you're into banjos, a few here. Gold tone. 5-string fretless. I don't know all that much about banjos, to be honest. Banjolele. Whole load of different stuff there. Gibson. Another Clifford Paragon here. Crawford banjo there. Banjolele with plaque for Formby. Banjora by Ozark. Interesting looking thing. Baritone ukulele by Eric Beharel. Okay. Baritone, this is actually a nice looking instrument, isn't it? Beharel Brothers. Yeah, 2006. Yeah, nice looking instrument there. 40 to 60, that's a very low estimate. Yeah, nice looking instrument there. Concert ukulele there. Okay, Toby Chenell or Chenell. Yeah, it's kind of interesting ukulele. Someone obviously bought a few different custom made ukuleles. John Gray and Sons long scale banjolele. Interesting. Carla tenor uke. Mandolin by Eastman, that's pretty standard. Mandolin by Terry Doherty there, 3 to 3.5. Let's see what else we've got here. Flat back mandolin and a kind of electric guitar there of some kind. Tenor electroacoustic ukulele. Some random kind of ukes and other kind of strum stick things. Let's just quickly look at this actually. Interesting. Acoustic guitar by Tanglewood. Ashbury tenor acoustic. Martin auditorium acoustic. Martin backpacker. Taylor mini. Terry Doherty acoustic guitar, 3 to 3.5 there. Vintage resonator. Epiphone SG. Fender 40th anniversary Stratocaster, 3 to 4 on that. Fender Classic Vibe bass guitar. Fender Jazz bass. Fender Strat 1957 reissue, 5 to 700. Fender Strat 50th anniversary. Another Fender Strat, a Mexican one this time. 1951 Fender Telecaster reissue. Giffy Music bass. There's a bit of everything in this auction. Gibson Les Paul 100. I think we're getting closer to the end of that. Gibson Les Paul electric guitar, 4 to 600. Needs some parts. Another Gibson Les Paul. Okay, 2 to 3,000 on that. Gibson Les Paul Standard, 100 anniversary. One of these Hofner bass guitars, like the Beatle bass. Lap steel guitar. Paul Reed Smith, Bernie Marsden. Rapier Sapphire, 12-string electric guitar. Richwood guitar there. Some pedal boards. We must be getting towards the end now. Fender Blues Deluxe amp. Marshall amplifier. Orange amp. And yeah, we're onto music boxes, so I think that is pretty much it. So yeah, a few different things across the musical instrument spectrum. Definitely a few interesting guitars and a few interesting stringed, bowed stringed instruments if you're into that kind of stuff. There's obviously other things in this catalogue as well. So yeah, like I said, link is in the description of the video if you want to check out the catalogue yourself, and the auction itself is running tomorrow. So thanks a lot for watching, really appreciate it, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.